Now, now, the space shuttle became the fulfillment of the prophecy of Isaiah, Isaiah chapter 14. Let me go here and read this. I want to just read in part. I'm start at 3. Isaiah 14, chapter 3. You know, we got a voice called Blackwater who have forsaken the covenant. I spoke all through Daniel and showed in Daniel chapter 7 the horn with his little eyes to see how these was the one who forsaken the covenant. They also became mystery Babylon of the Chaldees who had went through the breadth of the earth, spoken of by Daniel the prophet who spied on the Hebrew children, also through other parts of the Bible. Habakkuk. Let me begin at Isaiah chapter 14. You can go to your Bible for reference and show you this was the Antichrist. He had went up on the brink of the earth. Verse 3, and it shall come to pass in the day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, and from thy fear, and from the hard bondage wherein thou wast made to serve, that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon. This is Mystery Babylon, which is the United States of America. It takes you all the way back to Daniel, when Daniel told Nebuchadnezzar that he was this head of gold, that God had gave all the kingdoms to the earth in Daniel chapter 2 under his authority, that he was going to win World War III. That's what he's referring to. And this was that part of the prophecy being fulfilled. He was with his weapons of mass destruction. God was getting ready to turn the world over to him. So this was Mystery Babylon going back home, where the Syrians had empire, built him Babylon, but he's going to take it back. But God had gave it to the children of Abraham. Verse 4, 14, Isaiah 14, verse 4, that thou shalt take up the proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, how has the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. The Lord has broken the staff of the wicked, and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the peoples in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger, is persecuted, and none hinder him. The United States do this. Many ministers not going to say this. They're doing it right now as I speak. They don't know why they're in Afghanistan, but they're still there. They don't know why they're in Iraq, but they're still there. They've done this. They've did it throughout the history. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth unto singing. Yes, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedar of Lebanon, saying, since thou art laid down, no belly is come up against us. Talking about when God had defeated the United States of America, identified by the space shuttle. Hell from beneath is moved for thee, to meet thee at thy coming. It stirs up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It has raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. All they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Thy pomp is brought down low. Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy bowels, the worms, is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? He called the United States Lucifer. His words God spoke to Isaiah the prophet, son of the morning. How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. He will go up into the outer banks of the earth in his space shuttle. This is what Jesus was referring to in Revelation chapter 4. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregations in the side of the north. He building one of the largest embassies in Iraq, building him a ruling part that I will ascend above the heights of the cloud. I will be like the Most High. He's going to rule them. He's going to make them do away with the law of Moses and take on the law of the marks, or he's going to kill them. He's going to follow in the trace in the footsteps of his father, Alexander the Great. Yes, thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the side of the pit. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee, and consider thee, saying, Is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms, that made the world as a wilderness, and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of his prisons? All the kings of the nation, even all them, lie in glory, every one in his own house. But thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch, and as the raiment of those that are slain, thrust through with a sword, that go down to the stones of the pit, as a carcass treaded on the foot. Thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, because thou hast destroyed thy land. He has destroyed the United States of America, trying to stay controlled by bringing in drugs and infested, causing crimes and all of this here, and have overharbored and polluted this earth, and slain thy people. They have slain many of these peoples in America, that the seed of evildoers shall never be renowned. Prepared slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. But I will rise up against them, said the Lord of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name, the remainers, and the sons and the nephews, said the Lord. Okay. Well, in Revelation chapter 4, and it's a replica of Ezekiel chapter 1 and chapter 10. And I'll come back and I'll go back over that in my next recording and take my time and go through those and show you where these two match. The lion was the name mentioned first. Mean at first, when you go and read these chapters in Ezekiel chapter 1 and Ezekiel chapter 10, the man's name was mentioned first, meaning he was the navigator. But the lion was mentioned this time in Revelation chapter 4 as the first, it was the pilot. And as the pilot, the lion was a vile person. He was the Antichrist because he'd be able to kill. He was the one flying the space shuttle when he went up on the brink of the earth. That means the space shuttle was completed, and the mission of the space shuttle was completed what it was intended to do, and it was used as something to make war on God's peoples over there in the Middle East from high above. So therefore, when God gained victory over the world, and when World War III was completed, it was during the voyage of the space shuttle. This became the end of timepiece. He described it as having 6 wings. And when I come back and do my other recordings here, I will try to go through as much of this as I can from Ezekiel chapter 1 until Ezekiel 10 and Revelation chapter 4. And I will bring it after this here on my next segment of recording before I go off into Revelation. But I use other symbols that I got. But forgive me for this here, but Revelation, the eagle is the space shuttle itself, and the man and the lion is 2 individuals. One is the pilot and one is the co-pilot. One is a substance.